The stars shined brightly in the vast, dark space as the human fleet cruised through the outer reaches of the galaxy. Commander Ilara Kane stood on the bridge of the horizon, her eyes fixed on the view ahead. It was a quiet day, one of those rare moments when everything felt peaceful. But that peace would soon be broken by something far beyond their expectations. A signal appeared on the fleet's communication screens. It was a distress signal, weak and scrambled, but still readable. The message came from a civilization that humanity had barely heard of, the Silureni. Their home planet, Charon, was facing a disaster unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. A rogue black hole was slowly pulling their world apart. Ilara felt a chill run through her. The Silureni had sent out their call for help, but the message wasn't just desperate, it was their last hope. "Commander, it's a direct distress signal from Charon," reported Lieutenant Cass, a sharp-eyed officer who worked in the communications department. "The message is clear. They're asking for immediate assistance." Ilara's heart sank as she read the message. The Silureni explained that their planet was now caught in the powerful pull of the black hole. The very fabric of space was stretching and warping around them, causing massive destruction. In their message, they begged for help. They had already sent calls to other advanced species, but it seemed like no one had responded. "Please, we are Charon's last hope. Please help us. The black hole is coming for us. Our children are dying. Our cities are crumbling. If anyone out there can hear this, help us." Ilara read the message again. It was not just a cry for help. It was a warning. If humanity didn't act quickly, the Silureni would be lost forever. She knew they had no time to waste. There was no one else who would help. Not now. Not ever. As a member of the Galactic Council, humanity had seen many times how other species would only help when it was in their interest. Every advanced civilization that had received the Silureni's signal had turned their backs. Some argued it was too risky to intervene. Others said the black hole was too dangerous, too unpredictable. The Council, made up of several species who valued practicality over compassion, had decided that Charon was simply too far gone. Ilara stared at the flickering screen in front of her. The decision had already been made by most of the galaxy's powerful civilizations. To them, saving Charon was too costly, too impossible. But to Ilara, there was no choice. Humanity had always been different. They hadn't built their societies by turning away from others in need. They had risen through centuries of struggle, often alone, but always with hope. She turned to her crew. The silence in the room was heavy. "Set a course for Charon," Ilara said firmly, her voice filled with determination. The crew didn't hesitate. They understood. There were no questions, no second thoughts. Humanity was not like the other civilizations who had ignored the suffering of others. They had a duty to help, even if it seemed impossible, even if it meant risking everything. "Commander, we're receiving confirmation from the Council. They say this mission is a mistake," Lieutenant Cass reported, her voice trembling slightly with uncertainty. "I don't care what the Council says," Ilara replied, her voice cold but resolute. "We're going." Ilara knew that this mission would be risky. The black hole was a force beyond anything humanity had ever faced. Its gravitational pull would stretch and tear apart anything that got too close. They would be entering the danger zone without knowing if they could even survive. But there was something deeper than fear that drove Ilara. Humanity's core belief that they were capable of doing the impossible if they worked together. "Make the necessary preparations," Ilara ordered. "We leave in 1 hour." As the crew scrambled to carry out their duties, Ilara couldn't help but think about the Silureni. What had they done to deserve such a fate? The galaxy had turned its back on them. But not humanity. Not while she was in charge. She thought back to Earth's past. Humanity had once faced its own dark moments, times when it seemed like the world would end. But each time, there were those who refused to give up. They fought for the survival of others, and they fought for the future. Now, it was humanity's turn to carry that legacy forward. They couldn't just sit back and watch as a civilization they had barely known was erased from existence. The Horizon's engines hummed to life as the ship prepared to jump into warp speed. Ilara looked out at the stars. The black hole was still far away, but it was coming, and every second counted. She turned to face the crew one last time. "We are going to save them, no matter what it takes." The Horizon drifted in space, its engines humming softly as Commander Ilara Kane stared out at the vast darkness ahead. The journey to Karen was long and dangerous, but Ilara was focused. There was no time to waste. The Silureni needed them, and humanity couldn't afford to fail. Ilara gathered her senior officers in the ship's command room. The walls were lined with data screens, all flashing with numbers and information. Everyone knew what was at stake. The black hole was closing in on Karen, and they had no idea how much time they had left. But Ilara was determined to try. "We need a plan," Ilara said, her voice strong but filled with the weight of responsibility. "We don't have much time. The black hole is moving fast. If we don't do something soon, Karen will be gone." Lieutenant Cass, the communications officer, spoke up first. "We've been analyzing the data from the Silureni signal. The black hole's gravity is growing stronger every hour. Even their most advanced technology can't stop it. It's pulling everything in, breaking apart everything in its path." "I know," Ilara said, her voice steady. "But we're not just going to sit here and watch them die. We need to think of something, and we need to do it fast." Science Officer Dr. Rail, a brilliant but quiet mind, nodded. "We've studied black holes before, but nothing like this. The force of gravity is too strong. Anything that gets too close will be torn apart. But there might be a way to slow it down." Ilara turned to him, her eyes narrowing in thought. "What do you mean?" Dr. Rail hesitated, then stood up and walked to the data screen, pointing at a holographic image of Karen's orbit and the approaching black hole. "We could use a gravitational shield, a field that can create a temporary barrier to counter the black hole's pull. It wouldn't stop the black hole, but it could slow it down just enough to buy time for the Silureni to evacuate." Ilara listened carefully. This idea seemed risky, but it might be their only chance. "And how do we generate this shield?" "It would require every bit of power we have," Dr. Rail continued. "We could use the Horizon's engines to generate the field, but we would have to get close to Karen. Too close, in fact. We would need to place the field directly over the planet's atmosphere. The closer we get, the more power we'll need. And the black hole's pull will make it even harder. So we need to put everything we have into this shield, and we have to get close enough to Karen for it to work." Ilara asked, her mind racing with the possibilities. "Yes," Dr. Rail confirmed, "but there's no guarantee it will hold. If the black hole's gravity is too strong, even the shield might fail." Ilara stood quietly for a moment, thinking about the risk. She looked around the room at her crew, each one dedicated to the mission ahead. They had come so far, and now, the next step would be the hardest. But Ilara knew they couldn't turn back now. There was no other choice. "We'll do it," Ilara said, her voice firm. "Prepare the ship. I want every available resource dedicated to this shield. We have to get close enough to Karen to make it work." Lieutenant Cass spoke again. "Commander, the other species in the Galactic Council won't support us. They've already made it clear they don't think this mission is worth the risk. They'll likely be watching us fail." "I don't care what they think," Ilara replied. "We're doing this for the Silureni, for their children, and for anyone who believes in the value of life. This isn't just about saving a planet. It's about showing the galaxy that humanity is willing to fight for what's right, no matter the cost." Dr. Rail gave a nod of agreement. "We'll need to adjust our power systems to handle the extra load. It won't be easy, and it won't be comfortable, but it can be done." Ilara glanced at the rest of her crew. Everyone was determined, ready to do whatever it took. The room was filled with a quiet energy as the officers began their preparations. The gravity of the situation was clear to them all, but they trusted their commander, and they trusted humanity's ability to make the impossible happen. The horizon set its course for Karen. The stars seemed to blur as the ship moved faster, pushing toward the planet that was on the brink of destruction. Ilara sat in her chair, watching as the crew worked together, each one contributing their skills and knowledge. It wasn't just about the technology. They were using their hearts, their hope, and their belief in each other to make this work. As the ship neared Karen's orbit, Ilara felt a surge of determination. We're going to save them, no matter what it takes. The horizon sailed into the heart of the storm, where time was running out and the impossible awaited. But humanity had already proven time and time again that it could rise to any challenge, no matter how great the odds. Now was the time to show the galaxy what they were made of. The horizon dropped out of warp speed as it neared Karen's orbit. The planet was a beautiful sight, but it was also a dying world. The black hole's gravitational pull stretched out from its center, causing strange distortions in the space around Karen. It was a place of great danger, yet Ilara had no choice but to move closer. The bridge of the horizon was filled with the quiet hum of machinery, but underneath that hum was an undeniable tension. The crew knew they were entering the most dangerous part of their mission. If the gravitational shield failed, they might not make it out of Karen's orbit alive. "We're within range, Commander," Lieutenant Cass reported, her fingers flying over the control panel. "Approaching the Silureni capital now." Ilara stood up and walked over to the large display screen, her eyes scanning the surface of Karen. The once thriving cities were now abandoned, their towering buildings cracked and crumbling under the strain of the black hole's pull. The planet's atmosphere shimmered with instability. It was clear the Silureni's world was slipping away, piece by piece. "This is it," Ilara said quietly, more to herself than anyone else. "We can't let them die." She turned to her crew, her voice firm. "Prepare for the shield. We're getting close to their capital. I want every unit on standby." The crew sprang into action, each officer focused on their assigned tasks. Meanwhile, the communications team attempted to make contact with the Silureni. They needed to coordinate the evacuation, but first, they had to make sure the shield could hold long enough to make it possible. A few moments later, the communications officer spoke up. "Commander, we've established a connection with the Silureni." Ilara walked over to the communications station and faced the screen. The image of Syra Valen, the leader of the Silureni, appeared. Her face was weary, her eyes filled with a mix of hope and disbelief. She had been fighting for days to keep her people alive, but the end was near. "Commander Kane," Syra said, her voice soft but steady, "we didn't expect you to come. The other species, they all turned their backs on us. But you still came." "We're not turning away," Ilara replied firmly. "Humanity doesn't abandon those in need. We've already begun preparing the shield to buy you some time. We need to act quickly." Syra nodded, though her face showed the weight of the situation. "You don't understand. The black hole is unpredictable. Even if you manage to slow it down, there's no guarantee it will work. Our people, we're running out of time." "We're not giving up," Ilara said. "Humanity knows what it's like to fight against impossible odds. We'll make this work. Just trust us." There was a brief silence before Syra spoke again. "I will trust you, Commander Kane. You are our last hope." Ilara gave a quick nod, her heart heavy with the responsibility. "Then let's get to work." The horizon moved closer to the capital, its engines struggling to maintain the right distance from the planet's unstable gravity. The crew worked tirelessly, directing the ship's energy into the gravitational shield generator. The task was complex, with so many variables at play, but Dr. Rail's team was ready. "We've initiated the shield's core power," Dr. Rail reported. "However, we are approaching critical range. The black hole's pull is stronger than expected." "We can't stop now," Ilara said. "We have to keep pushing forward." As the ship moved closer, the gravitational field became more erratic. The horizon shook as it entered the zone where space itself seemed to bend and warp. Ilara gripped the edge of the command chair, trying to stay steady as the ship rocked. The lights flickered for a moment, but the crew remained calm. "We're almost there," Dr. Rail said, his voice trained. "Just a little more power, and we'll be able to deploy the shield." In the distance, the Silureni capital came into view. From space, it looked like a shattered jewel, its once glorious cities now ruins. The Silureni had lived on Charon for centuries, building an advanced society, but now they were about to lose it all. "Get ready to deploy the shield," Ilara ordered. The crew activated the shield, and a blue force field began to form around Charon. It shimmered with energy, a brilliant display of humanity's science and determination. The black hole's pull began to slow just enough to give the Silureni a fighting chance. As the shield expanded, Ilara looked out at the planet, knowing this was only the beginning. The next phase would be the most difficult, evacuating the Silureni before the black hole took everything. "We got a window," Ilara said, a note of relief in her voice. "Now we need to move fast." The first evacuation ships began to launch from the Silureni's remaining spaceports, carrying the first group of refugees toward the horizon. Ilara watched as the ships took off, her mind already on the next step. "Commander, we've got more ships incoming," Lieutenant Cass reported. "But we can't keep the shield up forever. The black hole's pull is too strong." "We'll do what we can," Ilara said. "Get everyone off Charon. We'll hold the line as long as we can." Ilara's heart raced as she looked out at the planet and the ships that would carry the Silureni to safety. Humanity had done what no one else would do. They had given them a chance. And now, Ilara would do everything in her power to make sure they didn't lose it. The tension aboard the horizon grew as the evacuation of the Silureni continued. Every minute was critical. The black hole's pull was getting stronger, threatening to tear the planet apart. Ilara and her crew worked tirelessly, coordinating the evacuation while keeping the shield intact. But as they neared the final stages of the operation, something unexpected happened. One of the crew members had discovered something alarming. A sudden power failure in the shield's core had caused a temporary drop in energy. For a moment, the shield flickered, and Charon's atmosphere began to feel the weight of the black hole's gravitational force. The disaster was averted, but it was clear that something was wrong. "We've got a problem," Lieutenant Cass said, her voice tight with concern. "The power failure wasn't random. It looks like someone tampered with the shield's core." Ilara's heart skipped a beat. Sabotage. There was no other explanation. Someone aboard the Horizon was working against them. "Are you sure?" Ilara asked, her mind racing. "Yes, Commander. The failure wasn't just a malfunction. There's evidence of a deliberate override in the system," Cass replied. "Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing." Ilara clenched her fists, trying to keep her cool. They were already fighting against time, the black hole threatening to destroy everything. The last thing they needed was someone undermining their efforts from the inside. "Start a full investigation," Ilara ordered, her voice cold with determination. "I want to know who's behind this, and I want them found now." The crew moved quickly, scanning all the security footage and systems to track down the saboteur. Ilara's mind raced as she considered the possibilities. Who would want to sabotage the mission? And why? She walked to the central command console, looking out at the vast darkness of space. The Silureni were depending on them. She couldn't afford to let anything stop the mission now. "Commander," Dr. Rail called from his station, "we're starting to lose power again. The sabotage has caused more damage than we first thought. We need to find the source of this before it's too late." Ilara nodded. "Keep working on it, Dr. Rail. We'll get this fixed." As the investigation continued, the crew worked around the clock, focusing on the evacuation while trying to uncover the identity of the saboteur. The evacuation ships kept launching, each one carrying more Silureni to safety, but time was running out. The black hole was now only hours away from consuming Karen. Then, a breakthrough came. "We've identified the saboteur," Lieutenant Cass said, her voice sharp with anger. "It's Officer Ryan. He's been sending encrypted messages to a rival faction in the Galactic Council. He's been working against us this whole time." Ilara's stomach dropped. Ryan had been a trusted member of the crew, someone she had worked with before. She never would have suspected him. How could he betray us like this? Ilara muttered, shaking her head in disbelief. What was he hoping to accomplish? Lieutenant Cass continued. "Ryan is part of a faction that believes the Silureni should be left to their fate. They think helping them will give humanity too much influence in the Council. They want to maintain the balance of power, even if it means condemning an entire species." Ilara's fists tightened. This was bigger than just one crew member. It was a political move, a dangerous attempt to prevent humanity from becoming too powerful in the eyes of the Council. But the cost of this power play was the lives of the Silureni, and she wasn't going to let that happen. "Where is Ryan now?" Ilara asked. "We've traced him to the lower levels of the ship," Cass replied. "He's trying to escape. He knows we figured him out." Ilara didn't hesitate. "Lock down the lower levels. No one leaves until we find him. He's not going anywhere." The search for Ryan was quick. With the entire ship on high alert, the crew cornered him in a small maintenance bay. Ryan didn't resist as Ilara and a team of officers approached, but the look in his eyes was cold, calculating. "I was just doing what's best for the galaxy," Ryan said, his voice low. "The Silureni were doomed. You should have let them die. Now you're wasting valuable resources for a lost cause." Ilara stepped forward, her voice unwavering. "You betrayed your crew, your people, and a species in need. You don't get to decide who lives and who dies." Ryan didn't say anything more, his eyes avoiding hers. The officers quickly took him into custody, ensuring he wouldn't sabotage anything else. With the saboteur dealt with, Ilara turned her attention back to the mission. "Get the shield back online, and make sure the evacuation continues. We're not stopping until every last Silureni is off this planet." The crew worked with renewed energy. The sabotage had been a setback, but they wouldn't let it break them. Ilara knew that the road ahead was still filled with danger, but they had come too far to turn back now. "Let's finish what we started," Ilara said, her voice strong. "We're saving Karen, and we're saving the Silureni, no matter what." The horizon remained locked in orbit around Karen, its engines humming steadily as the crew worked tirelessly. The evacuation was going smoothly, but the black hole's pull was growing stronger by the minute. Every ship that left Karen was a victory. But they were running out of time. There were still so many people left to save, and the black hole was inching closer. Commander Ilara Kane stood on the bridge, her eyes scanning the data screens. The shield they had placed around Karen was holding, but just barely. It was taking everything the horizon had to maintain it. The ship was running low on power, and the crew was exhausted. Yet they couldn't stop now. Not when so many lives were at stake. "How's the shield?" Ilara asked, turning to Dr. Rail, who was overseeing the energy systems. "We've got maybe another hour before the power runs out," Dr. Rail replied, his face tense. "At this rate, we won't be able to keep the shield up long enough to evacuate everyone." Ilara's mind raced. They were so close to finishing the evacuation, but she couldn't afford to lose the shield before the last ships took off. If the shield failed, Karen would be destroyed within minutes. There was no time to waste. "Lieutenant Cass, what's the status on the last ships?" Ilara asked, her voice calm but urgent. "We've got 2 more waves of ships ready to launch," Cass replied. "But we'll need more time to clear the airspace. The black hole's gravitational pull is causing turbulence around the planet. It's making takeoff difficult." Ilara glanced at the view screen, where the swirling darkness of the black hole loomed in the distance. The planet's surface was now a fractured, unstable landscape. It was clear that Karen was on its last legs. She felt a surge of determination. They couldn't let it all go to waste now. "We're not stopping until the last person is off that planet," Ilara said firmly. "We'll keep the shield up for as long as possible. Everyone, stay focused. We're not losing anyone." The crew nodded, their faces filled with exhaustion, but also with resolve. They had come this far. There was no turning back now. As the final waves of evacuation ships began to take off from Charon's surface, Ilara's heart raced. She watched as each ship lifted into the sky, carrying the last of the Silureni to safety. Each successful launch was a small victory, but there were still so many ships to go. "Power levels are dropping," Dr. Rail said, his voice strained. "We're at 40%. We'll lose the shield soon unless we find another source of energy." Ilara's mind worked quickly. They needed to think of something, and fast. She turned to Lieutenant Cass. "Cass, are there any other ships in range? Anything with backup power we can use?" Cass tapped on her console, her fingers moving quickly over the controls. "There's a fleet of supply ships about 2 hours out. They're on their way to a nearby colony, but if we can reach them in time, we might be able to siphon power from their generators." Ilara's eyes widened. It was a long shot, but they didn't have many options left. "Get them here now. We don't have 2 hours. We need them in 30 minutes. "I'll send a priority message right away," Cass replied, already typing in the coordinates and sending the signal. Meanwhile, the evacuation continued, the ships carrying the Silureni steadily moving toward the horizon. The crew worked with incredible efficiency, despite their fatigue. Ilara could see how much they were pushing themselves, how deeply they cared about this mission. They weren't just saving the Silureni, they were proving to the galaxy that humanity could make a difference. But time was running out. "We've got the supply ships," Lieutenant Cass reported. "They're coming in fast, but the turbulence around Charon is slowing them down. They'll be here in 20 minutes. Ilara nodded, not allowing herself to show any sign of relief. They were getting closer, but they weren't out of danger yet. She turned back to Dr. Rail. "Can we maintain the shield for another 20 minutes?" she asked, her voice tight with pressure. Dr. Rail hesitated before answering. "I can reroute power from non-essential systems to help stabilize the shield. It won't be easy, and it won't be pretty, but it should give us enough time." "Do it," Ilara said without hesitation. "We're not letting this go." As the minutes ticked away, the last few Silureni ships took off, their engines roaring as they escaped the dying world. The final wave was just moments away, and Ilara knew they were almost there. Then, a sudden jolt shook the horizon. The ship's alarms blared, and the lights flickered. The crew quickly scrambled to maintain control as the turbulence increased. The black hole's gravity was reaching its breaking point, and the ship was being pulled into the void. "Hold on," Ilara shouted, gripping her seat as the ship was rocked by the violent forces around them. "We've got this. Stay with me, people." Despite the chaos, the crew worked with unwavering focus. The supply ships were now only minutes away, and the final group of Silureni was boarding the last evacuation ships. Ilara watched as the last ships lifted off the planet's surface, carrying the final survivors. "Commander, the last ship is clear," Lieutenant Cass shouted. "The last of the Silureni are safe." Ilara let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. The mission was a success. The Silureni were safe, but the fight wasn't over yet. The horizon was still caught in the black hole's pull, and they needed to escape before it was too late. "We need to get out of here," Ilara said urgently. "Now, before we get pulled in too deep." The horizon powered up its engines, slowly pushing against the gravity well of the black hole. It was their only chance to escape, but the pull was overwhelming. "Give it everything you've got," Ilara ordered. "We're getting out of this, no matter what." With the final burst of power, the horizon broke free from the black hole's grip. Racing toward the horizon drifted through the vast emptiness of space, its engines humming steadily as it moved farther from Charon's destruction. Ilara stood on the bridge, staring out at the stars. The planet they had saved was no more, but the Silureni, once doomed to a fiery death, were now safe. They had done it. But even with the weight of victory on her shoulders, Ilara couldn't shake the feeling that this mission was far from over. The escape from the black hole had been a close call. They had barely managed to pull away in time. The horizon was damaged, its systems strained from the immense pressure. It would take time to make repairs, and time was something they didn't have much of. Ilara turned to Lieutenant Cass, who was standing near the communication station. "How are the Silureni doing?" she asked, her voice softer than usual. "We've established a secure connection with their leaders," Cass replied. "They're in good hands. They've already begun organizing their people on the transport ships, and they're heading for a safe zone. There's relief among them, but also a lot of uncertainty. They've lost everything." Ilara nodded. The Silureni had been through a great deal, but now they had a chance to rebuild. Humanity had given them that chance. She couldn't help but feel proud of her crew, proud of what they had accomplished. "But it's not over yet," Ilara said quietly. "We can't stop now. We have to make sure they're settled, and that no one comes after them." Just as she spoke, the ship's intercom crackled to life. "Commander Kane, we've received a transmission from the Galactic Council," the officer at communications said. "Put it through," Ilara ordered. The screen flickered, and the face of an older man appeared. His eyes were sharp, his expression stern. It was Chancellor Valen, the leader of the Galactic Council. "Commander Kane," he said, his voice calm but firm. "I understand you've successfully evacuated the Silureni. You've done the impossible, and we commend you for that. But this is only the beginning. The Council is concerned about the political implications of this action. Humanity's involvement will not go unnoticed." Ilara stood straighter, her gaze unwavering. "I didn't do this for political gain. I did this because it was the right thing to do. The Silureni needed our help, and we gave it." The Chancellor's eyes narrowed slightly. "That's not what I'm concerned about. What I'm concerned about is how other species will react. The balance of power in the galaxy is fragile. Your actions could tip that balance. The Council will be watching closely." "I didn't ask for your approval," Ilara said, her voice cold but controlled. "We saved the Silureni because they needed saving. That's all that matters." The Chancellor seemed to study her for a moment before speaking again. "I'm not here to argue, Commander. I'm here to inform you that the Council has decided to offer humanity a position on the Governing Council. But make no mistake, your actions have consequences. We'll be watching." The screen went black, and Ilara exhaled slowly. She had expected this kind of response. The Council was always watching for any shift in power, and humanity's recent actions would certainly have made waves. But she wasn't afraid. Humanity had already proven its worth. They had saved lives, and that was what mattered. "I guess that's the price of doing what's right," Ilara said, turning back to her crew. "Looks like it," Cass replied, offering a small smile. Ilara turned her attention back to the view screen. The stars stretched out before her, endless and beautiful. She couldn't help but wonder what the future held for humanity and the Silureni. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was at the forefront of that change. They had earned their place. Meanwhile, the horizon continued its journey through space, taking the Silureni toward a safe haven where they could rebuild their civilization. It would take time, but with the help of humanity, they had a chance. And that was more than they had ever hoped for. The ship's engines hummed in the background, a steady reminder that the mission was far from over. There were still challenges ahead, new alliances to form, new threats to face. But for now, they had made it through the storm. The Silureni were safe, and humanity had once again shown that they would never turn away from those in need. "Commander," Lieutenant Cass said, breaking Ilara's thoughts, "we've received a message from the Silureni. They're thanking us for everything. They're ready to start rebuilding their world. Ilara's lips curved into a small smile. That's what it's all about, she said softly. Giving people the chance to rebuild, to start over. Humanity's strength has always been in its ability to rise from the ashes. And now we've given that same strength to the Silureni. As the ship moved farther into the stars, Ilara felt a renewed sense of purpose. She knew that the galaxy was vast and full of challenges, but she also knew that humanity had the power to make a difference. They had proven that time and time again. And as the horizon sailed through the quiet of space, Ilara felt a sense of peace settle over her. This mission had been a success, but it was only the beginning. The future was still uncertain, but humanity would face it head-on, together. The stars stretched out before the horizon, endless and full of promise. Ilara stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the view screen as the ship glided through the vastness of space. The Silureni had been safely evacuated, and now they were on their way to a new home, far from the destruction of Karen. The horizon had completed its mission, but the journey was far from over. As the days passed, the ship continued its voyage through deep space, carrying the Silureni toward their new beginning. Ilara felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. They had saved a species, yes, but they had also made powerful enemies. The Galactic Council's warnings had not been taken lightly. They had made it clear that humanity's actions had set the stage for a new kind of political shift, one that no one could predict. But Ilara was not afraid. She had made her choice when she decided to help the Silureni, and nothing would change her resolve. The galaxy was a place of uncertainty, of power struggles and alliances, but one thing was clear: humanity had a place in it, and they would fight for it. "Commander," Lieutenant Cass called, her voice breaking through Ilara's thoughts. "We've received a message from the Silureni leadership. They want to speak with you." Ilara nodded. "Put it through, Cass." The screen flickered, and the face of a Silureni leader appeared. His features were sharp, his eyes full of gratitude. "Commander Kane," he began, his voice steady but emotional. "On behalf of all the Silureni, I thank you. You have saved us from certain extinction. Your people have given us a chance to rebuild, to live. We will never forget this." Ilara smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "It was the right thing to do," she replied. "You deserve to live. Humanity will stand by you, no matter what." The Silureni leader nodded. "We are preparing for our new life. It will take time, but we will rebuild, and we hope that our new beginning will be a chance for us to learn from you. There is much we can learn from humanity's resilience, its strength. You have shown us that even in the darkest moments, there is hope." Ilara's eyes softened. "You have your own strength," she said. "We've only helped you see it. Now you'll carry it forward." The leader smiled, his gaze filled with determination. "We will. Thank you, Commander. You have made all the difference." The transmission ended, and Ilara stood in silence for a moment. The Silureni had faced unimaginable loss, but now they had the chance to build something new. It was a powerful reminder of the importance of hope, of the belief that even in the face of destruction, something beautiful could be reborn. "Commander," Lieutenant Cass said, her voice thoughtful, "what happens now?" Ilara turned to face her. "Now, we wait. We wait to see how the galaxy reacts to what we've done. We wait to see how the Council responds. But most importantly, we make sure the Silureni are safe. We've given them the chance to rebuild. Now, we'll help them." Cass nodded, her expression serious. "We've changed the galaxy, Commander. There's no going back from this." Ilara looked out at the stars again. "We've started something new, a new era, and humanity will be part of it. Together, we'll face whatever comes next." The horizon sailed on, its course set toward a distant star where the Silureni would begin their new life. The crew worked tirelessly to maintain the ship, to ensure that the mission would continue without interruption. But Ilara knew that the true work had only just begun. The Silureni needed more than just safe passage. They needed guidance, support, and the knowledge to rebuild their world. And that's exactly what humanity would give them. As the horizon sailed deeper into the unknown, Ilara felt a sense of peace settle over her. There would be challenges ahead, yes. The Council would continue to watch, and other factions would undoubtedly take notice of humanity's growing influence. But in the end, Ilara knew one thing for certain. Humanity had proven its worth. They had shown that they were willing to fight for what was right, no matter the cost. "Commander," Cass said again, breaking Ilara's thoughts, "we've received a signal from Earth. The Council has requested a meeting with you." Ilara sighed, a small smile tugging at her lips. "I'm sure they have a lot to say." Cass chuckled. "They certainly do. But I think they'll be more inclined to listen after everything you've accomplished." Ilara nodded. "Let's see what they want. But no matter what they say, humanity's place in this galaxy is secure. We've earned it." The Horizon continued its journey, its crew stronger than ever, its mission complete but its story far from over. In the distance, a new future waited, a future shaped by humanity's courage, compassion, and the will to do what was right. And as the stars shimmered in the blackness of space, Commander Ilara Kane knew that no matter what the future held, humanity would face it together, stronger than ever before. His safety of deep space. The crew let out a collective sigh of relief. The Horizon had made it, and more importantly, the Silureni had made it.